Alrighty, so welcome to JavaScript, a 100% online coding course here at Fresno City College. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. I love this course. This is a course I've been teaching for a number of years now. I love coding. I love all things tech. So teaching this class has been a real joy for me. And my goal is to make it a joy for you. Now, I can't guarantee that'll be your experience, but I want you to know going in, that is my hope for you in this course. Now, here as we come into the spring 2026 semester, some of you, I'm guessing, have thought, well, why do we even need to take coding anymore, Rio? The computer, the AI, the Gen AI can do that for us. And the truth is, Gen AI is doing a lot. But there are some things it can't do. And what we want you to learn in this class is actually how to think and how to understand code. How to think, meaning how to do a structured thinking process to achieve a certain outcome when writing code. And this process is actually a learning process. It is a skill process. So I will tell you coming in that Gen AI is helpful to you learning. But if you use AI, and this is going to be something you'll see me come into in a minute, to actually do the work for you, which by the way is actually takes more time to use AI to do it. But in general, the idea of using it to do the work for you, and therefore for you to bypass the idea and the skill bases that you're going to need to know, are not going to be helpful. Now, this class, and I'll just be completely open at the beginning, because I think it's really important to understand that this class has a technical interview. Now, what does that mean? That means at some point after the mid part of the semester, there'll be a time that you will sign up for, and you will come into a 30-minute session either on Zoom or on campus, and you will be asked to accomplish a specific thing in code, something we've learned, and you will need to demonstrate your skill. And for me, I've been doing this idea of a technical interview for several years, but as of lately, it's even more important because it's hard to assess the skill acquisition students are getting from taking a class like this. So I am not in any means opposed to AI. I do have concerns about it. I do have concerns about the way it's being rolled out, but it is a reality. No matter what I think about it, it is going to impact, it has already impacted so much for the way I do things. And I'm guessing for some of you, this is the way you get questions answered or research done. So now, is JavaScript still an important language? Absolutely. JavaScript is a hugely important language. It's number 3. It hovers around 3 or 4 in the popularity of programming languages. And for people on the web, for folks taking web development, this is, of course, the quintessential, the standard you would need to learn. And for some students coming in from other disciplines, maybe just a CIS degree, it is also one of the things you can take optionally to get a programming course for that discipline. So it depends on where you come from, your interest in taking this course. Okay, so let's actually take a look. I'm actually here at the front door of our course, and I'm looking at this as a student, so it may look a little different because of the way the outline is. But this is the way the course is set up. I keep announcements at the top of what's called the modules. So anytime you come into the course through the home link, you will see whatever announcements I have currently. And there'll be various content that you will see here through the semester. So it's important to check out. You can see by the dot, this one hasn't been read. And if you want to read the whole thing, you would just click on here to read it. Now, I will try to keep these fairly short so you can just glance at them, but sometimes you'll need to come into that. Now, the other thing you will notice about this course is that notice there's a week 0, which is intended for you to do before the start of the semester. But if you're coming in on the first day, that's fine too. And then you'll notice how this is got a different color than the following items. And that's because my course is taken in sequential mode, which means you need to work through the welcome, then you can look at our tutors information, and then you can look at the Discord, and once you finish week 0, then you can move on to week 1. Now, in this case, there's no other content as of this recording that is available to you, but in general, I provide up to a week ahead of the content so that you can work ahead. And I definitely recommend, and you'll hear me talk about this through the course. So at this point, the other thing you can see is there's always a to-do list over here, and that's great because it shows you what's coming up. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the welcome because that's where you've already started. You've already gotten in here. Right? So this is what I was talking about a little bit before, right? So the importance of coding in today's technology-driven world. Everything we touch is pretty much on the web. Everything we touch on the web is pretty much through a browser. Everything within that browser, right, the HTML, the CSS, is most likely JavaScript. Now, it's not the only programming language we use on the web, but is by far the most popular. Now, I've given you a couple links here. One, two, and you'll see this for me. The link here is to Gemini. I have switched from ChatGPT to using Gemini. I don't tell you which AI Gen tool to use. I don't even say you have to do it. There will be assignments for this course that will use it, and you'll see those as we move through. Okay, so you can check that out. Learning about why coding is still important in this fast-paced AI development. So that's here. The other one I've provided is something I definitely recommend based on what I was talking about before, which is the idea of the paradox of AI. And again, we're not gonna watch it here. This is intended for you to check out on your own. But the idea here is that, part of what we need to do as humans is not outsource our thinking to AI. It's to learn to be, understand information, understand skill bases, understand our world, help us gain skills quicker. For sure, using these tools that are available to us. But there is a paradox here, and we have to understand that paradox. Do we have to understand? It will help us understand how to leverage AI to our utmost rather than to the downside. Because in a class like this, as I'd said before, you're acquiring a skill. And using AI instead of doing the work will not help you acquire that skill. And when you come into a technical interview with me, it definitely affects your experience there and therefore your grade. Because 25% of your grade will be related or is a technical interview. Okay. So why learn programming? It is still important to learn programming. You may have heard this term vibe coding, which is the idea that you can just tell AI, I want you to generate this. You can absolutely do that. And people who don't have a background in coding can create something fairly fast. The challenge comes when you need to understand, troubleshoot, create more additional functionality, then you hit a roadblock. And that's where having that fundamental programming knowledge, it will really help you leverage something like a vibe coding concept. Okay, so if you hear that term, just know this course is not about vibe coding. This course is actually learning the fundamentals of coding. Okay. So moving on, the class overview, I've already talked about this. It's sequential, right? That the idea you have to move through it in the way that I've laid it out. This is the way the structure, right? So you'll have attendance each week, you'll have a code along each week, and you'll have checkpoints. Okay, so this is definitely for the first part of the course, a lot. Well, actually, we do get into here, but a lot of what you're going to see for the first couple of weeks. So you'll have an attendance, you'll have a code along, and you'll have checkpoints. Then we'll also do development projects and the technical interview itself. Okay, so not only will we build a project together, and in this case, we're going to build a carbon footprint. I've been using that concept, but I've actually rewrote it this last summer, and this is now the second time I've taught it in this new format I've created. So I'm excited for some changes I'm doing. Now, the thing about any course, and I'm guessing you've seen this before, is the idea of the syllabus, right? Understanding what's in the syllabus. Now, for me, I'm going to right-click. I'm going to open in a new tab because I don't want to leave this tab. So in here, I'm not going to go over this in detail, but what I'm going to tell you is you should. I recommend doing. I don't want to say should, but in this case, I recommend going through the syllabus in any course, okay? Because it's really the understanding of how the course is set up, the way the structure is, the way the grading is, what's expected from you, and I'll give you the good news right up front. There's no cost for materials. I've created all the materials myself for this course. Talks about the communication plans, talks about the use of AI in the course, because I will use AI in the course at some point in grading, but I will tell you when I do that, right? But I will tell you also that if you in your work, and you might think, well, this is a contradiction, Rio, you're using it, but we can't. And the truth is, for a productivity, for me to get out the kind of grading that needs to happen, AI allows me to have a quicker turnaround in grading time. Now, I've always been pretty good about this because I grade on a daily basis, okay? So I will tell you when you see me do it, okay? I will tell you in the review. I've let AI do a first review, and then I review that if that particular item needs it. But those are not all the items for the course, okay? All right, so do know that I grade on what's called your commits. You'll hear about this idea of a commit and git in a minute. But I will look at that. If your code is flagged for being generated versus being coded, right, you will be asked about that. And then we will have a process we go through. Because here's the other reality is I get it. Honestly, I do. It can be easy just to let that tool, whatever one you're using, generate code for you. I can just tell you coming in, and now this is probably the fourth time I've said it, it's not the idea. The idea is to learn from it. Now look at my attendance policy. I do offer late work. You can submit after that. Drop dates, holidays, right? This lays out the percentage of the course as far as which, how things, the colongs are 30. You can go through all this. Attendance is graded, and that's because you generally have something you need to do about that. I give you late passes, give you 2, and you can actually earn others by going to get help from the tutor. So I'm going to come back here and say this. The idea here would be for you to check that out in more detail. Okay, so be mindful of the holidays. They actually are listed. I may have went by them. Oh, I actually did list them above here. So here are the holidays for this particular semester. And you can also look as far as when the last thing that's due in this course is also listed in here. Okay, so that's just a quick overview. Now, recommendations. I do not recommend, if you happen to be enrolled in CIT28, which is Client Server Database, and 93. I do not recommend taking these classes at the same time. I've had a handful of students attempt it. I think I've had only one be successful. And I'm telling you this because of the workload. It's just not something I recommend. If you want to know more about that, come and talk to me. Okay? I talked about tutoring. It is available. So definitely take advantage of it. The reason tutoring is available is not only to help you better understand the code you're writing, but is also to help you learn how to converse, how to talk to somebody else about coding. Because you're coming into a course that requires a technical interview, you're going to want to have that vocabulary that and a comfort level with doing that. So that's the other way that tutoring, or coming to see me, by the way, both are good, okay? You just have more options. All right, so coming back here, we are now on this welcome, and I'm going to come back here to show you. Now, notice on the welcome that there is a little icon here, and what this means is in order for you to move to the next 2 items, and these are just for viewing, you have to have completed this item. And you might think, well, how do I complete it? Well, if I come back into it, and I scroll down here, right? So we are going to use, and this I'm building up to have what you're going to need to actually submit here, okay? We're going to use something called Git, which is a version control on either your local system or on a code space that's out on the cloud. And I'll talk about that as we get into week 1. But in order to use a system, you have to have a GitHub username. It is completely free. Now I'm going to open GitHub in a incognito window because I'm already logged in. So what you will do, and by the way, if you happen to already have a GitHub username, you don't have to create another one. You can just give that username to me. But if you haven't, you're going to go through and actually, I think I said sign in. You want to do sign up if not, and you will go through and you can either use your Google or your Apple or create one with just your Gmail or whatever. Sorry, I shouldn't assume, because you could also use your campus email, but I don't care which email you use. You just need to have that. So once you get your username, okay, so as an example, right, once you go through the process, like mine is just Rio, if I spell it right, okay. So that's my username right there, just Rio Waller, okay? So I'm going to copy that just to have it. So I just want to show you. And this is your part of GitHub. Now you're going to learn about how, and so Git is run either on cloud or on your device. And then GitHub is where we push code, or we copy it in a sense before you've learned all the terms for Git, out to the website that we can share. You'll either be sharing with me or you'll be sharing with the class, okay? So that's the thing you have to have here, right? So notice if I hit next here, right, it's going to show me, oh, actually it will, so this page hasn't been unlocked yet. And the reason is because I haven't finished this item. So just to give you that. So if I scroll up here and I hit start item, all you have to do is give me that username, okay? And then you hit submit. Now when you do that, you know, and this is important to understand from a timing perspective, right? So hopefully you do that by the start, first day you get in here. And what that allows me to do is invite you, because the thing I showed you where I was in my GitHub, my profile, you were going to be using a course organization. So a separate place on GitHub, and I have to invite you into that. In order for me to do that, you have to provide me your GitHub username. I invite you. Now this is important because timing, and this is what you'll hear me talk about in week 1 attendance. So now notice what happened. So now I haven't worked through everything, but I have worked through the first item. So now if I come back in here, right, now I can actually go and at this point hit next. Now Brianna is our main tutor for this class. She will be updating her information and her schedule. This is actually last semester, so that will be updated soon. So this is just a view item. And then the last thing you'll see here is that I have a Discord server that we run for the course. It's not required, but it is a great way to get support during those times when either myself or Brianna or the other tutors are not available. Okay, so I generally have a percentage of the course that gets on Discord. I don't require it. I just suggest it when you want to ask questions and maybe get immediate feedback. Just know if you're asking me, and I don't do private messaging through Discord, Brianna doesn't do private messaging. So if you want to get in touch with me, you would use the inbox. But this is for you, and really is for students to communicate with each other. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to this part again. So now I've worked through all of these, and now my week 1 has opened up. Okay, so the goal here is to give you an overview of the course, kind of what it's set up, what are the parts, giving you some understanding the importance of actually learning how to code yourself, the idea that I actually want you to enjoy this class. I look forward to meeting all of you during the semester, and you know, I hope this gives you a better understanding of this course, and I hope you're excited as I am that there's no textbook. That, you know, and that's another thing about Gen AI is that I think textbooks should become somewhat obsolete, although we have to be careful about Gen AI because not all the information is accurate, right? We have to understand how to evaluate it. Anyway, I won't get into that topic, so that's enough for this one. And now go through and look at these other ones, and then by the time you get here, well, actually, week 1 will be available, and maybe even week 2 by the time you get here. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. I'll talk to you later.